Hi, my name is Jose Mendoza, and these are my world history facts over the medieval times. We're going to talk about a few topics, and we're going to start off with manners. Back in those days, people lived in manors. Manors consisted of the king's house and its surroundings. The more manors you had, the more wealthier you were. What they did, what the lords did was that at the end of each year, they would collect the crops and the grain that his people would collect, and he will keep a portion of it. Another main point we're gonna be talking about is emperors and empires. Italy was one of the main empires during the Middle Ages. Every empire had their emperor. What emperors were, they were practically, nowadays we would consider them our president. During those times, there was a lot of emperors. There was not just one. One emperor named Constantine, he renamed, but not only renamed, he moved Italy's capital. He moved it and renamed it Constantinople, after his name, Constantine. To be an emperor, sometimes you would most of the times you will be chosen, kind of like nowadays our presidents, you vote for them. But sometimes, in occasions, it would run through your family, so it would end up you would be the emperor, like kings. Vlad Dracula. He was a Romanian hero and emperor. People considered him as a real hero because what he did, he was brutal and everything, but what he did for his country was just something amazing. Alright, so it's me again, and I'm back. During this time about the Middle Ages, this period, there was another thing called the Dark Ages. What practically it was a point where a lot of people were dying. People who had wealth were losing their wealth. The crops, they weren't making money out of it no more. Plants weren't growing. People were dying. What caused this was a disease called the Black Plague. This disease was bad. It was so bad it ended with more than half of the population of Europe. People started dying immediately. They would just drop dead. People wouldn't know what the cause was. What made this more dangerous was that they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know it was a disease. They didn't know where it came from. They had no cure. And as soon as dead bodies were falling, people were picking them up like nothing. I mean, they didn't know that this could cause something else, something worse. And there was no cure for that. Oh, nowadays that still exists. But nowadays we have a cure for it. You can keep it controlled. What happened was that during people traveling, like I said before, Vikings were traveling, and it was known that there was a rat. Rats were traveling. Rats were caught. Okay. Another main point we're talking about is tribes. During this time, there was tribes. These people would fight for power. So what they would do is their nearest tribes, they would raid them. They would fight them, raid them, in order to get their tribe to go bigger. One of the big tribes or clans that existed back in that time were the Vikings. The Vikings were people who were very feared. I mean, everybody was feared of them. I mean, no one wanted to get raided by them. They would travel by boat. Say by like 30, 40 people in these boats, and what they would do is they would go for easy raids. They would go for villages, towns that were less guarded by people. I mean, more population, they would want it, but they would prefer where it was, say they didn't have that much soldiers to guard the town. This will make an easy raid for them. They would go and they would attack, and what they would do is they'll kill anything that gets in their way. They were destructive. I mean, Vikings were just, they were bad people. They would destroy the towns. They would burn everything. But what they were on search for gold and silver. That's what they wanted. At the end of the day of each raid, when they were done, they would gather up all the silver and gold they got and split it between all the 30 men. So it would be like an equal share. But these Vikings, they were like, they were so like, the money and the silver, they wanted so much. Sometimes they even ended up fighting themselves for gold and silver. Oh, hey, welcome back. We're gonna talk a little bit about food and mouth. Well, back then, kings and the queens and royal people, they had real good food. They ate pretty good food, but the problem was that they didn't have silverwares. Weird that they had plates, but not silverwares. So how they would eat is they would eat with their mouth. Practically, mostly they will eat solid foods. I mean, yeah, solid. They're not gonna be eating soups. They're gonna be like, they would, but they would like to eat more solid food. That way they could get it with their mouth. It would be easier to tear, such as like steak, chicken, bread. Easy stuff to eat with, right? Easy stuff to handle. Their mouth. Back then, if you watch movies or you noticed, they had they didn't have very good teeth. They would lose a lot of teeth. It's because back in those times they didn't have toothbrush, and they had no paste. So people back then worried about their teeth. They really did. I mean, they didn't want to be losing them. So what they would do to try to keep their teeth clean, they would get a rag and wrap it around their finger and wet it with water, and they would just simply scrub like a toothbrush. That would be their way of keeping their mouth clean. No toothpaste. I mean, that was kind of hard for them to keep it clean. I mean, I would guess that it would still, I think it would smell. It wouldn't smell pretty good, but that's the way they did it back then, and that's it.